Well, welcome again, Tennessee. This is Aaron Duquette with our Meet the Pledge Signers series here on Facebook. We are speaking to several of our pledge signers in the state of Tennessee who have signed the U.S. Term Limits Pledge to get behind and co-sponsor and vote for the resolution that we push for that allows the states to come together to propose term limits for Congress. There's been a lot of people at home kind of angry at Congress and having to be home more and often, and so term limits business is, ironically, has been good. The issue is really coming to the fore here, and so we love having the opportunity, to take advantage of this to talk to some of our pledge signers and pick their brain as to why they're particularly for term limits. So we have with us Bennett. Bennett, do you want to introduce yourselves a little bit and what you're running for, and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, my name's Bennett Lapides. I'm running for State House in Tennessee's 12th District as a Democrat. I'm born and raised here in Sevier County. I've been civically engaged in some form for most of my life. I was a Boy Scout, kept with it, got Eagle, and, kind of got sold on the whole idea of the great experiment that we're all doing here during that time. Now this last May, I graduated from Warren Wilson College and have been able to come back home and am running here in East Tennessee in Sevier County to try and build a better future for all Tennesseans.
Yeah, great. And so, a couple months ago, we got on the phone and spoke with you about our campaign to term limit Congress. Speak a little bit about why you decided to sign our pledge.
Totally. So, I'm from Sevier County, and this is in no way a slight against any of our leaders in particular, but I'm 24 years old, and from local elections and local government positions all the way up to federal positions, there are a surprising number of people who have been there since before I was born. And that seems a little iffy at a point. You want new blood in there. You want new ideas. I think it's becoming obvious to most people that the leadership of both the Republican and the Democratic parties aren't really in lockstep with what the people actually want to do anymore.
Sure. We see that in Congress. I'm 38 years old, and there's still some that have been in Congress since well before I was born. I know, take your pick. In Kentucky, we've had Mitch McConnell in since 1985, so I was, a little toddler at 3 years old then, and I grew up in Vermont, and we have Patrick Leahy there. That's been since when my mother was in middle school. I calculated one day. That just blows my mind that you can, be there for that long and such a career out of that. What's a good, if Tennesseans are watching this and then 82% of American voters want term limits on Congress, so you're speaking to a very friendly and warm crowd here, but what's a good positive thing that you think would come out of it for the state of Tennessee and for the country if term limits were established?
Well, I think that, if we establish term limits, like I said, we're going to get new ideas and we're going to get politicians who are more in line with what American voters want. This is not to delve into other topics, but this is not the only issue that 80+% of Americans support. There are a plethora of issues that 80+% of Americans agree on, and you'd think we'd get somewhere on some of those issues, but we just haven't for a long time. And I think a lot of that comes down to people and the parties staying in power way past when they should give it up. It was never really designed for that kind of thing. The Tennessee legislature, which I'm running for currently, is a part-time legislature even. They are only in office, they're only in session from about mid-January to late April, beginning of May. And it's very much designed in that classical sense of, I think it was Jefferson even who commented that the Tennessee Constitution was the closest thing to ideal that they had come up with at that point. And I think, I think that definitely I don't want to say that the federal Congress should be a part-time legislature, because I think they have much more to deal with than a single state does, and it becomes kind of complicated and takes a minute. But there is definitely a sense that you should serve your terms and maybe let the next generation take the seat.
Sure, sure. You mentioned Jefferson. Incidentally, Jefferson was an attendee of the Philadelphia Constitutional Convention. Of course, he was over in France. But when he received a copy of the new proposed Constitution, his first lament was that rotation of office was not included, a provision for rotation of office, which is, late 1700s speak for term limits. They didn't call them term limits back then, but that's essentially what that was. Is that you rotate, any office or seat in a legislature periodically, so it keeps it free and sort of in the possession of the people, rather than sort of being an elective aristocracy, which is essentially what we have in many cases in Congress. We have, essentially, races that have been canceled. There's not really a real challenger, or if there is a challenger, they've got $3,000 that they've thrown in from their own purse, and they're not going to get anywhere, kind of thing. And he lamented that they didn't have that. Actually, the Articles of Confederation before it did have rotation of office in there, and interestingly, they didn't come out with it. But there was a lot of support for that idea. Benjamin Franklin was another who had written that into the the Pennsylvania Constitution to have rotation of office. So it wasn't uniform, but they certainly wouldn't imagine that people would, be octogenarians, in Congress, and being there 30, 40 years would have probably horrified them. So this conversation kind of goes back quite some time. So I have a question for you. We hear this sometimes, and not usually from voters, from ordinary people, but you sometimes hear this from politicians. And it sounds sort of quippy and maybe convincing on the surface. I'm curious what you say to this. They say, well, we already have term limits. They're called elections. What do you say to that?
Well, and that gets to a core of this issue. I very much do agree with the need for term limits, but I also will say that in my personal belief, I don't think term limits are enough. I think that partisan gerrymandering in particular has become such a deep-seated problem in this country. I went to college in North Carolina, and my college campus and a number of other college campuses across the state of North Carolina were split down the middle for voting districts. And that seems like a pretty intentional splitting of the vote, and a number of other cases like that. And as term limits, my concern is if term limits are the only thing done, then the power of incumbency transfers to the party itself. And I think that also should be something that we should deal with on the terms of gerrymandering, but that is a different conversation.
Sure. Yeah. And that's why, we don't pretend that term limits are a silver bullet, but they're actually something that we can actually get a lot of the reforms, I think, through a term limited legislature that's actually more responsive, that we need to have happen, that can take a more serious look at it than the legislature we have now today, for sure. And as far as, actually casting votes, well, the voting isn't working out so well in the current system without term limits, because there's a 95% re-election rate, and then Congress's overall approval rating hovers around 12% or so. Rarely does it get over 20%. So, how do you account for that? Are you just going to blame the American people for being stupid or something? Some do. I'm telling you right now, some do, but I certainly don't. I think the system is built to exclude quality people from running, because they would have to abandon their whole career, and they don't have that kind of money to compete. And so why would they do that to themselves and their family? Yeah. Oh, great. Well, we can't get this done without folks like yourself running for the state legislature to get this done. Obviously, Congress is not going to term limit themselves. In Kentucky here, we like to say it's like asking chickens to vote for Colonel Sanders. It's just not something in their own best interest to do so. So, at least without the threat from the states doing it for them, they're not going to budge. And so, we appreciate you standing up and being willing to take a public stand and sign that pledge. And we thank you so much for all your time today.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for the work you're doing, organizing this effort across not only the states of Kentucky and Tennessee in your book, but your organization is nationwide, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got to get this done. We got 34 states. So we're trudging through. All right, Bennett. Well, thank you so much for your time, and
Thank you.
we'll talk to you soon, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.